This is LaserBolt, and welcome to our no BS review for the Ascent. If you want to know exactly what the score is for the Ascent, it's an 8 out of 10. If you want to find out exactly how we got to that number, well, stay tuned today, and we will talk about everything you need to know about the Ascent and why it got an 8 out of 10. The Ascent takes place in a futuristic cyberpunk-themed metropolis. Now, within this metropolis, there is a city called Veles, which is the main city we're going to be living in, and this has a bunch of big high sky towers that raffle through everything. If you kind of want to get a better idea of what the game kind of feels like, if you ever watched the movie Guardians of the Galaxy, when they go to the city, it's very similar to that. There are all sorts of different creatures from all different parts of the galaxy. Now, within the city, there is divided into two different districts. One is the more affluent one, which is where the rich people live, and then you have the poor slums, where the poorer people live in the city. That's how the city is currently divided. Now, this city was built and has been led by a mega corporation called the Ascent Group. Now, the Ascent Group, their main objective is to enslave and control everybody, including you, the protagonist. But all of a sudden, guys, for some apparent reason, the group shuts down. And this is where you come into play, because when the city goes shut down, everything goes completely out of control and chaos breaks out. And this is where your adventure actually takes off, because you're then going to have to turn and take matters into your own hands and fight your way out of the city to survive for you and for your people. But you know, like that song says, started from the bottom, now we're here. That's basically what your journey is going to be like, because you're going to start all the way from the bottom, because you start as a janitor and you have to work your way out of the slums into the mega corporations. Now, throughout your adventure, you guys are going to meet a lot of friendly NPCs that you either have to defend or defeat. Now, they got to keep in mind that some of these quests will be rewarded to you as you progress through the game, and some other ones you'll be able to go ahead and experience them through side quests. Now, throughout your adventure, you're going to be picking up experience points that will help you level up your character. In addition to that, you'll also be collecting different gadgets, different weapons, different crafting materials that will make your journey a little bit more pleasing and less challenging. Now, the Ascent does come with its own unique characters and special enemies, and each enemy will have a different approach on how you're able to fight them with different combat styles. This is where your choices actually come into play, because deciding what type of weapon you're going to need, what type of playstyle you're going to need, what type of gadgets you're going to need, and what type of armor you're going to need, it's going to be crucial for you to be able to succeed in certain areas within the game. Finding the right weapon or finding the right loadout is going to be important, and this is where the loadout comes into play and the whole crafting system comes into fruition within the game. The game comes with an extensive array of weapons, which theoretically you could already expect in any type of shooter. There's different types like SMGs, assault rifles, pistols, and grenades, and you also have melee weapons, and in addition to that, you have to also consider the armor and backpacks and devices you're able to put into your cyberdeck. One of the cool features about the cyberdeck is that you're going to be able to detect nearby enemies, which is something very not typical when it comes to a twin-stick shooter. And its ability of your character to aim up and down and hide behind cover, it's something new they're bringing into the last landscape of tabletop shooters or twin-stick shooters, which gives the game a little bit more of innovation and something different than what you've become accustomed to. Now, one neat feature about the game as well is that you also have destructible environment, which makes the game a little bit feel more dynamic and more immersive. And with all of this being put together, it actually gives the game a lot of variety to the gameplay compared to other games that you have seen prior to the whole tabletop and twin-stick shooters. There's also augmentations available and special abilities, which one of these abilities actually allows you to generate a field around you that heals your enemies of allies. The main focal point of this game, of course, is to play it in co-op. Now, theoretically, you could play the game solo if you want, which is the way we did it for our review, but you could also go ahead, link up with a buddy, link up with a friend, and challenge the game in co-op, and that is when the game becomes a little bit more immersive. Now, speaking of upgrades, which I mentioned a little bit earlier, your character will be able to upgrade in different ways, and you're going to be able to level up your character by receiving skill points. These can be spent on the skill tree to boost your character attributes and improve its weapon handling. Weapons, gadgets can also be upgraded, and of course, you could also be able to get crafting materials to enhance your weapon a little bit further. Now, you'll be able to find these materials and these gadgets all over throughout the world, or you could actually receive them as rewards from completing different missions or different side quests, or by picking them up from the merchants that sell weapons and armors. In case you cannot find a weapon you like on the streets, what needs to be said is at this point is that there is no random loot in the Ascent. There's no RNG. You primarily are able to buy the loot from a vendor or pick it up when you're playing the game. All weapons and gadgets are specifically made for the location of that mission and your level. One of the really cool features about the game is that whenever you play the game or you play a harder difficulty or a more difficult mission, you don't have to worry about getting weaker weapons because the game will reward you with weapons that match your level. And based on how hard that difficult that mission is, you will receive better loot. You're not going to receive weak random weapons or armor that does not match the current level you're playing the mission in, which makes it not randomly generated. It is handmade and you can freely explore the vivid city and travel between districts at any time using the subway or a taxi later in the game. It's actually suggested, guys, that after you complete the game, that you travel back to formerly visited areas because you will find stronger enemies there, because you'll find better loot, and you will be able to not only upgrade your character, but also enhance its abilities better. Now, one thing that a lot of people were asking prior to the release of the game is if the game had any sort of class system. The game does not have any class implementation, so there's not a tank, a healer, anything like that. The game actually allows you to be able to decide what class you want to be play this, and all of this is being accessible through the skill tree and also the armor you're able to pick or apply into your character. Now, one thing I did want to mention, because I know a lot of you guys might be consider picking this up or playing this in co-op, is that when you join someone in co-op, the host is the one that actually controls the game. Anybody could join the host player or the main person that's hosting the lobby and jump in and play the mission with them. So if you guys are trying to get better loot and farm or get leveled up fast, of course, you're going to want to do harder missions and get better loot while you're doing those harder missions, and you'll be able to collect that loot from your friend's main account. Now, when you join a player, their character progression, loot, and gear will be available, but they do not have their own save game with a story progression. So basically, if you're joining your friend and he's like in mission 5 and you're barely in mission 1, yes, you could join and pick up the loot, but you won't be player progression will not be completed for you. So just keep that in mind. Now, the playtime for this game is between 15 to 20 hours. I actually spent a little bit less amount of time with the game than 15 hours. It was roughly between 10 and 12, and I was able to complete it. Now, that is just doing a complete playthrough, not doing any side missions, not doing any treasure hunting, but that is still part of the play. Now, remember, that is only if you stick into the main missions, but there are also a lot of other side missions available and codex entries, plus additional treasures that you can find within the world. So if you want to complete the game, you'll probably take you like around between 60 to 80 hours to complete everything and complete your build to the maximum advantage. In addition to all that, guys, you're still going to be able to customize your character with different options like changing the hairstyle, changing the colors, changing the tattoos, and so on and so on. So overall, in general, guys, the reason why we gave this game an 8 out of 10 was not only because of the price. It is a $30 game. So for $30, you get 15 hours and additional 60 to about hours if you do everything side quests, codex and all that stuff. The game is very fun, very dynamic. It brings a lot of stuff new into the genre, which is, of course, is the cover shooter, where you can cover and peek and shoot. It also gives you the destructible environment, and it also gives you a whole array of options to actually approach the game and play it as you please. Overall, in general, guys, I think the game would have probably gotten a higher score if it did have more of an end game. As of right now, it's just pretty much, if you just play the whole game, 15 hours, collect your loot, and you're done. I think if we would have had a little bit more of an end game, there would have been a little bit more incentive to keep playing the game over and over. We could probably get even a higher score, but 8 out of 10, I think, does justice for the game. Not only is it a good price point, but in addition to that, it is a very fun, dynamic, and interesting game. Let me know if you do plan on playing the Ascent. Don't forget, you can also play this for free by using the Game Pass on your Xbox. So give it a try. Let me know what you guys think. And don't forget, guys, for all things the Ascent, keep it locked in this channel, and I'll talk to you guys later.